Hello, everybody. Nice that you joined me today. And today I will make a bit more technical session. If I told maybe before that I will not be much technical in the videos I will try to record. And today I want to talk a bit about the Adobe API Mesh. And it's very tightly connected to the whole Adobe Commerce development process, at least for us, at least since several months. So, and talking to different people on it, I'm really feeling that still not everybody, even within my team, understands fully why it's needed and which benefit it has. And also just, I want to share like how awesome tool is it for our daily routine and in our development process or different architectural solutions we're trying to build here. So shortly about the mesh itself. So, no, wait. Let's first start with the use case. So, for example, you have Adobe Commerce system in headless mode. So your project uses Adobe Commerce as a headless system, and you have some front end built around, or you're building the front end around the Adobe Commerce. In most probably, you will use Magento GraphQL. You may also use REST. That's honestly another point. But for example, using GraphQL layer, which provide full set of tools where you can integrate your checkout, PDPs, categories, so you can access all data within Adobe Commerce system. Yeah, sometimes you align it when you add in some different parameters or so. But yeah, I mean, it's just a API layer. And then while developing, don't know by which use case, you find out that, okay, I need to get a list of the websites the system has. You cannot do it in standard. You can receive only the websites or list of the store view stores you have access to. So technically, if you, let's say, on a website 1, you can receive the list of the store views from this particular website, but you cannot do it for, let's say, the whole environment. Don't know why, but you have a use case that you need to receive it. What you would usually do, you would have, I would say, two ways here. You can develop the extension that extend an existing endpoint. So you extend it in a way that it's not, let's say, using the authorization to define to which scope you have an access to, it just will deliver you everything. Another option, which I usually more prefer, is you develop a new endpoint which fits specially for your needs. And maybe you can also even protect it if you want to do it. By the way, you have also the third way. By the third way, you can just call the REST API and get this list by using the integration token, for example, or ours. But that has also the big downside that then your frontend would need to implement two different APIs. One is the GraphQL, another one is the REST. Not very comfortable. So, like first two options, which you most probably will do, is you will extend Adobe Commerce. So you'll create a module that's doing one or another stuff, provide an endpoint. What you have to do with this code, you have to maintain it. You have to be sure it's, let's say, compatible after releases, after the Adobe Commerce updates. You need to check that everything works as expected. So you develop in one more module and add it to the another 100 you have already on your system. But I want to tell you another way of doing it without writing any line of the PHP code here. So that's how we go into the topic I mentioned before, is API Mesh. API Mesh, just will read it through, allow developers to combine multiple data sources into a single GraphQL endpoint. And it's doing the same what I just told you. So you can have multiple API endpoints. So it's basically multiple systems, and you can combine them together and have the single entry point for all of them through the single URL, and you have full power of the GraphQL API for that. It should not be necessarily always GraphQL. It can be, for example, one system is GraphQL, another one is a REST, third one is a JSON, API, and even SOAP is supported, but as I know it's like in beta, I honestly never used it, so I would not touch it here. Sounds pretty awesome. And if you're coming back to the use case I just mentioned before, what you can do, you can take Magento GraphQL API, you can take Magento REST API, merge them together, and have a single entry point for all your frontend, so they access the same URL. And then they also can call stores endpoint from REST API by using GraphQL and receive the list of all the whole stores you wanted to. Yes, they would need integration token, for example, but that's already another story. Sounds pretty awesome for me, and it would not require any development from you. And I just explained very simple use case, and I will make set of videos, I hope in the future, where I will give much more examples or use cases, what you can do with it. And yeah, just to have a short demo on this one, a bit more technical, as I said, let's have a look what you need to start to use it. So let's go to action here. What you would need to start? You would definitely need Adobe account for that. It's quite an important point. You would need the node be installed, so you can install the npm package for Adobe CLI tool, Adobe I/O CLI tool, and also for the mesh additionally you would need to install the Adobe Mesh plugin. There is a nice documentation. I'll post a link in the description, so feel free to go through. For any questions, I mean, just feel free, just drop me a message. I'll help you as much as I can. Okay, so we want to create the mesh, and in our use case, we want to merge two different APIs, just for the sake of example. So let's do it. To create a mesh, you need just to create the mesh JSON file. So you define it within JSON, define the whole configuration. You need to like pre-build for the system be able to build you the endpoint and provide you the GraphQL URL. And I prepared some examples here already. Sorry, if you expected I will type it during this video, I will not. So we have GraphQL layer here, so which is in a GraphQL system of Adobe Commerce. So we can have a look on it. Hope it will work. Yes, there are no queries, but I mean you can see the schema, so everything is here. Then what we want to do, we want to get this full stores list additionally. And for that, we would need to use the REST API. I'm now doing an example within the same Adobe Commerce system. You technically can use any other APIs. It has to be REST API, it has to have the Swagger schema being available, because otherwise the Adobe Mesh cannot build the schema. And let's say if you're using the JSON, you have to have an open AI schema, so you need to pre-generate schema for your API somehow in any case. So if, let's say you created some controller and claim it's an API, I mean it will not work definitely. So then let's go back. We defining, so we creating the mesh config, we defining the sources. In our case, it's a GraphQL as a source, which has the GraphQL handler. And then we have an OpenAI handler, which is our REST endpoint. And yes, as Magento has a Swagger, you can get the schema. You honestly don't need the whole schema. And if you would need to get, let's say, only stores, websites and store views, you can just fetch them out of here by defining which services you want to use. You would need to use authorization. Because yeah, it's usually also protected endpoint within Adobe Commerce itself. And that's it. So yeah, shortly back to authorization. So you can define the header for each of your sources. So you have multiple sources, let's say REST and it's GraphQL, and you can define their own headers. It's schema headers, operational headers, and in this way, the mesh will send those headers to the target system. As you see here, you can also read data from the context. Means if you send the request from Postman or whatever from any other system, you can define the header. In this case, if you define the store header, then Mesh know, okay, I need to take this header and send it to this endpoint. So for example, this header, the store header, if you define it while you're doing the original call, it will not be sent to the REST API. So it will be sent only where you tell it to send. We had such a use cases that when we just started to use it, we were not very experienced with that. So let's say we have use cases that stores can be changed for the GraphQL, or the customer cannot log in at all because the header has been not bypassed. So even if you send authorization header with our request for the logged in customer, the target system didn't receive it. So it means you cannot log in. So don't forget the headers for your system, and if you extend in something, you would need to add them. But within this configuration, it's already have to work. I really hope it will work. But what else do you need? So as you went through the documentation, I hope you did. So you installed IO CLI and API Mesh plugin. Means you have those nice list of commands and tools being available already here. So what you can do next, you can create Mesh. And for that, you would need to create a builder application first. So you go into your developer adobe.com console, and in this case, you can create the new project. You have to create a new project. It has to be a builder application. You define environment. So let's make some test Api Mesh demo project. And it will create you the plain project after you doing it. And then you have to add for one of them. So for each environment separately, yes. But you have to add, new API. And that will be API Mesh for Adobe Developer Builder. By doing it, it's not asking you much, just allow domains, which you can define here. And then saving it, and it's done. So now you have an application which supporting API Mesh, and you can start to use it. And then all further magic happens within the console. So let's go. Now we can deploy already our application. So with Mesh, it's quite easy, honestly. You need really like 5-10 minutes to get started. Okay, it sounds like very optimistic. But let's have a look. So first of all, with your Adobe AO, you have to be logged in. And there is like AO login command, which you can use. To doing it, it will forward you to Adobe. You log in with your credentials. What you additionally need to do, usually need to set up the project you want to start with. And you can do it with not workspace. So first select organization, just to be sure your incorrect organization. Then select the project. It's API Mesh, Demi, whatever. And then select the workspace, which is a station in our case. And then AO Api Mesh create, and then name of the file you just created. So mesh.json. Do you want to create Mesh? Yes, I definitely want to create Mesh. And then it's started to be provisioned. That's an endpoint that you will receive, and you can use it to get the API. We can try it. Hope it will work. Yes, it works. So that was the standard one. That was a new generated for us. So it's already done. Additionally, if you're like not sure, because when you're doing the changes, you do an Adobe API Mesh update, and if you're not sure if your change has been applied, you can always check by status. I hope it's like this. Yes. So your mesh was successfully built. If there will be an errors within the configuration, or it cannot do something because of the accesses, because of the mistakes and so on, you will get a message while you're getting the status. So means also it works if there is an error, your previous mesh will not be updated, but it will not be broken. So it still will deliver you the old mesh configuration. So I mean, if you made a mistake, your system is not crashed because you still get the old information back, which is quite nice. I mean, it means you can break the system, but it's still quite hard to break the system. And yeah, so we have a mesh, and I hope we have a stores here. So we have a store config. No, that's another one. Here, that's our endpoints, which been taken, as you can see, from get v1 store view, so which is definitely not REST or not GraphQL, it's a REST. And yeah, you can also query them. You have the data you can query and so on. So you have the whole specification, then it's GraphQL, it's not a REST anymore, which is quite cool. Yeah, so that was a very simple use case, and I'll make another videos, more detail. If you're really interested, drop me the questions about which features you want to see. If you can also, I will be really happy if you write me the question with your use cases and asking if it's possible to solve them in one or another manner by using the Adobe Mesh. Because I'm quite interested also, I see quite good potential in the direction of reducing amount of work that have to be done to implement one or another use case. And in the next videos, I will share you some other examples of this one. Thank you very much. And yeah, like, subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. Then we'll see you next videos. Bye-bye.